Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols, reaming my body.
Alright guys, Boruto episode 236 review. This episode right here was actually really good. There's a lot of tension in this episode and a lot of things really popped off, but Kawaki just keeps on getting power buffs. This man got nerfed for a reason. He was too strong for this arc, but it turns out that they completely lifted that because of Bunten. Shout out to Bunten, by the way. Bunten is a character that a lot of people actually do really like. Of course, if you guys don't necessarily recall, we went over this a lot of times. The first time that we really seen her in action, she fought against Sarada. Right now, she might even beat Sarada. I'm not even completely sure. I personally believe the only reason why Bunten actually did help Kawaki is because Kawaki kind of helped Bunten while they were on that boat going to the fortress. If you guys don't necessarily recall, there's a time on the boat where Boruto and Bunten, they were essentially arguing back and forth, and Boruto saying he doesn't really trust Bunten because she is an actual convict. Kawaki kind of stood up for Bunten and said it doesn't matter what she is, she's here to help us with the mission. And of course, that right there kind of got Boruto to shut up a little bit. I'm thinking Bunten might be warming up to Kawaki a little bit. Maybe this could be like a foreshadowing later on in the arc. We could potentially even see Kawaki save Bunten again, and it'll be like Kawaki repaying his debt from before. That right there in itself would be an absolutely amazing storyline. Now on the other side of things, Sarada and Mitsuki, they did exactly what they needed to do. Almost exactly what they needed to do. But we gotta start off praising my girl Sarada. Sarada in this episode absolutely took control. She is the leader of Team 7 for a reason. Of course, she did multiple things in this episode to essentially aid what they're planning to do. Now, I think the biggest part of Sarada in this particular episode has to be her Genjutsu. This is one of the things that I've criticized Sarada and the Boruto writers, if you guys want to include them as well. I've criticized them about Sarada's Genjutsu on multiple points. There has been multiple times in this series where Sarada just does not use Genjutsu, and I have absolutely no idea why. Like, if we're just talking big characters, Deepa was not placed under Genjutsu, Ao was not placed under Genjutsu, Kashin Koji was not placed under Genjutsu, Bora was not placed under Genjutsu. I understand that these right here are top tier characters, but Sarada doesn't even attempt to put them under a Genjutsu, similar to what Sasuke tried to do with Danzo back in the day to kind of test them out. If you guys do recall, Sasuke caught Danzo under a Genjutsu just to test it out, and of course that right there proves to be absolutely successful. Sarada never done that, so for her to actually pull it out in this arc right here, I was absolutely ecstatic. I personally believe that Genjutsu should 100% be a big part of her repertoire moving forward. Physical attributes, Sarada isn't necessarily a slouch or anything like that, but for her to actually compete with the S tier ninjas, I think Genjutsu 100% has to be a part of her repertoire. Now, we can't necessarily just gloss over the fact that at the end, she wasn't necessarily the best, and I think this right here was highlighted by Bunten at the end of the episode. If you guys do recall, there was a time when Boruto, Kawaki, and Bunten, they were actually on the fortress and they actually did kill somebody. Bunten specifically killed someone, and she actually told Boruto and Kawaki it's either kill or be killed. In this specific instance with Sarada, she didn't do that with the person that she actually put under a Genjutsu, and because of that, that person literally, I'm not even exaggerating, under 40 seconds later, in episode time of course, he woke back up and signaled everybody. It made this whole other ordeal at the end of the episode where now Mitsuki is fighting, Metal Lee is fighting, Dengi's having trouble starting the actual ship, Sarada is fighting as well. It's like a war trying to make sure the goons don't actually go on the ship when the goons themselves shouldn't have actually been there. If Sarada would have either one, restrained the guy and made it absolutely impossible for him to do anything else after, of course, Sarada beat him, or if Sarada would have just flat out killed him. Now, in regular instances, I wouldn't necessarily bring this up. But because Bunten highlighted this, I think now we're going into a certain situation where Boruto is getting even more serious, where things like this have to happen. Sarada can't just knock someone out and just leave them there to wake up 30 seconds later. That does not work. Now, hypothetically, if Bunten did not bring this up, I think, hey, this is just regular. The Boruto writers are doing what they're doing. It's an anime only arc. It's not necessarily anything too crazy. So I'm guessing, hey, nothing big is going to happen from that. But because Bunten brought it up earlier, this might be something that really hurts Team 7 in the future. Might not be this arc, could potentially be the next arc, it could potentially be the arc after that. I have absolutely no idea, but because she brought it up, I think it's probably going to have some relevancy in the future of Boruto. Now, a couple of other things that I definitely did want to talk about from the enemy's perspective. The pirates are really interesting. The Funato clan is adding a completely different element that, again, The Naruto series hasn't necessarily seen in a very long time. It is essentially fighters from different type of places. We've seen the samurais earlier, and now we're getting to see pirates. They're not necessarily ninjas, and not only that, the pirates aren't fodder, which is what I really want to see. They essentially had a bunch of character building in this episode. We now find out that the Funatsu clan is actually a structured family. Well, we kind of knew that before, but we got the introduction of Tenma. Tenma is also an absolute gremlin. He is a problem. He's also a problem as well, similar to his brother and also his father. Not only that, we also find out in this episode that he is absolutely loyal to his family as well. So he's not necessarily trying to backstab anybody and actually take power. No, he's trying to do everything on the up and up. That right there is absolutely amazing. Of course, the downside is that he's a ruthless leader that essentially kills a lot of his subordinates and of course destroyed a lot of mist ninjas before in the past. That right there is the downside. And of course, it just adds to the seriousness of this arc. You even have Iwabi and Medali talking about how this mission right here is essentially like an S rank mission. I'm not necessarily going to go as far as to call it an S rank mission. I'd probably say a high B, low A, something like that. But all of that is essentially predicated upon the villains. If the villains were just absolute fodder, this arc would not be this good. But I definitely do want to know what you guys think about this episode right here in the comment section below. My biggest takeaways has to be the fact that Sarada finally used Genjutsu again. Kawaki got like unnerfed, and also the enemies are actually really good. But let me know what you guys think. It's been your boy Bar B, and we out.
It's a knife.